Hi, I'm JD Hager with Oxnard Climbing. Here very recently, a guy named Eric Laraquinte and I created a DIY climbing hold group on Facebook. It's kind of an offshoot of the Home Climbing Wall Forum, and we really focus on making different kinds of holds. And I've seen a lot of questions pop up that I want to get answered. A lot of people are looking really the two schools of thought on it. You've got some people looking at rock holds and concrete. There's wood and polyurethane, in my opinion. I don't have a whole lot of interest in screwing rocks to the wall. I want a lot more control over the shapes that I'm making. So if you're going to want to create those shapes, you got wood, polyurethane. Now I want to talk about the reasons why you would go either direction on those. So general rule of thumb for me is if you're going to go to a hold, if you're going to do a hold like this or smaller, polyurethane is the way to go. You can create create a mold that can make 4 or 5 shapes like this at a time. And it's about $20 or $30 for the silicone because they're not very tall, they're not very big, they don't take a lot. $20 or $30 for the silicone, and you can just print out holds all day long, and you can cover this wall. The deficiencies of holds this small is because they're not really super useful on a wall this steep. They'd be fine on a slab, but they don't work real well on a lot of home walls at this angle. That's where volumes come in. You can bump a lot of those edges into usable format by using volumes until you get stronger and you can do other stuff and use pinches and whatnot. For a half gallon of polyurethane, for $80 or $90 for the polyurethane, I can make 2 or 3 times this. All right, it's very cost effective at this size. You start getting much bigger than that, and it gets a little bit less cost effective. For a hold like this, I got this one right here. For a hold like this, it's about $120 for the silicone. Because I've got the silicone on the front and I've got silicone fillers on the back to really reduce the cost of resin on this and how heavy it is, and et cetera, et cetera. About $120 for the silicone. Resin cost isn't too bad, but that silicone investment up front is kind of steep. In order to recoup my cost on a silicone investment, I need to create probably a dozen of these. On a home wall, I don't need a dozen of them. I need 2 or 3 in about 2 or 3 different colors. Maybe 6 or 7 of these would be all right all together, and that would be really pushing it, quite frankly. So this is kind of pushing it for home walls. I'm able to do it because I have a local gym that I trade my membership fees for by creating holds for them, and so I get my cost back when I create a little bit bigger holds like this. I can justify it. For stuff smaller than this, if I didn't have that option, it'd be pretty hard to justify. That's where wood holds really start to come into play. Wood holds, you can make bigger shapes and really shape them out to what you want. You can make those big slopers. You can make those big pinches, those big kaiju jugs. You can make those out of wood, and you're not out that much money. It's really not that bad. It's just a matter of how well you can shape. I like plywood for that. I've seen some 2x4 jugs, 2x4 pinches. I don't like that single grain. It's kind of easy to snap that, but it's doable. But I like plywood because of that cross grain structure it has. It's very strong in multiple angles. The downsides to it is the tools you need up front. You need a jigsaw, you need an angle grinder with a couple different blades, a carbide blade and a flat sander. You need a drill to put it all together. You probably need some clamps to hold it together while you glue it, etc., etc. And for all the work and time you put into it, you only get one. It's not like these where you shape them once and cast them once and you can just print them off. I can make a dozen of these throughout the day real easily and have them on the wall that night. With wood holds, it's a little more time investment, but you can make bigger, unique holds out of it. Wood holds get kind of frustrating when you want to make a bunch of scatter, because that takes a bunch of time and effort. You can still run them off a table saw real quick, but it takes time and effort, and you only get one for as much effort as you put into it. Whereas silicone, once polyurethane, once you got that effort into it, you can just pour it and go. It's really pretty simple. So my rule of thumb for home wall builders looking at holds is for this shape, for this size and down, polyurethane is probably cost effective. You can make a mold that will cast all of these for 20 or 30 bucks, and for 20 or 30 bucks worth of polyurethane, you can cast a set like this 4 or 5 times. It's pretty cost effective in my opinion to make holds that size. Again, the only downside is that they're not super usable for a lot of people on this angle, unless you're fairly strong. If you're fairly strong, you can do what you want to do. But for other guys that are getting into these degree of walls, we're getting volumes to bump them up. When you start getting above this size, if you screw up your silicone mold, you're just out that money. So I would really refrain from doing this size for a while, even jug size. I would refrain from doing that for a while until you're confident you're not going to screw up your silicone mold. Pay your dues on the small stuff where you're only out $20 or $30 with the silicone. Don't do it on this where you're out triple digits. That's really painful. I've done that before. It hurts. The other thing on these holds like this is they need to be usable in multiple different angles. If you can justify having a dozen of them and make that money back on silicone, then, or if you got buddies you can sell them to or whatever, you know, yeah, or you're just one of those like super cool dudes that's got a giant climbing gym in your backyard, you know, you can justify doing these, but make sure that they have multiple angles to them. This has got several. I can just use this one here. I've got a kind of a difficult angle here, a much more positive one here, kind of mid-grade with a crimp in it, and then just real smooth. There's a lot of different things I can do with this hold. I can change it, angle it, put it on volumes, and I can have a different hold almost every time on the wall. I can put 6 or 7 of these on the wall, and they'd all be different because of the functionality I have in this hold. So if you're getting to that size, be aware of that. But if you're getting into that size, you know, you start getting like these chicken head sizes, I could probably cast this and make my money back pretty easily because it's not that big of a hold. But you start getting above this, and you're better off going wood because you're not going to want that many of them. You're going to want 3 or 4 these big kaiju pinches, or not pinches, these jugs. I only want 2 or 3 of these. All right, so there's no reason for me to cast this and spend $250 for the silicone on this mold and then pour all that polyurethane into it when I only want 2 or 3. So the big wood hold works really well for that, and that's the direction I would go on that. So again, rule of thumb, in my opinion, polyurethane is only really a great idea if you're going to go about this size and below, because you can just print a bunch of them off and use them everywhere. When you start getting much bigger than this, you need to look at wood. Okay, and if you're going to do a bunch of these, be prepared to make a bunch of volumes. And I've got volume making videos. They're not that hard. There's a lot of them out there. They're not that hard, but when you start wanting to get into this or develop some slope strength with the bigger holds, you're going to have to go to wood, I think, to justify your costs. So that's my rule of thumb on different holds. I have a lot of these already. You know, I had everything. You know, I haven't cast anything since I built this wall, and I'm about to have some supplies on order. But you know, I've got everything you see, and I've got another box, and I've got some more in the house, and I've got some on my kids' wall, and then I've got several hundred at the local gym. So I've been casting for a while, and I've got all those molds made. It's one thing, the polyurethane, I can pour them out, and I can put stuff all over. I can print some more of these out. I get some pinches on here. I might shape a few more smaller stuff, but I'm not going to get very big. I'll keep that with the wood. You know, I can get a sheet of plywood for $26, and I can make 4 or 5 of those easy out of that, and a bunch of smaller stuff too. So I want to work on some big slopers. I'm going to work on some dish slopers. I want some more kaijus. So some different stuff like that I'll do out of wood. Everything else I'm probably just going to cast. And I think that's going to be the most cost-efficient way for me to do that. So I hope that answers some of your questions about what direction to go, because it really depends on what you're wanting to do. Again, you can do everything out of wood like this, but the functionality of these I already have with similar holds, and I can just cast them. So there's no reason really for me to make these unless I just wanted them all match, which is a home wall. It's my wall. I know what routes I want to use. So, and you can see all the holds I have in here. I've got a wide variety that I have cast. And really, the molds in here, I probably have $150 for the silicone in, because it's really easy to get the cost back on your silicone and holds this small. I probably have $150 worth of silicone invested in these molds, and I can make hundreds of different holds out of these, and just use them in all kinds of different ways. So the cost efficiency there is pretty good. And that's where I would go with it. For larger than that, start looking at wood. So I hope that answers some of your questions. I hope that gets you started. Feel free. I'll probably post this up on the Facebook group and on YouTube. Hop in, ask questions. We're here to ask questions. We're here to help. We want you to have a productive wall. We want you to be able to do things with it, and we're happy to help. So reach out. Join us on Facebook at the DIY Climbing Hold group. I'll approve you immediately, and we'll go from there. So I hope these answer some questions. Thanks for spending a couple minutes with me today, and stay safe out there, guys. Thanks.